I am live. I'm reading The Laird and the Lady. It is a novel by Joan Marshall Grant. She used to write books about her previous lives, her incarnations. She passed away in 1989. Wonderful books she wrote. This is a novel. Starts in a romantic French chateau where the Laird meets the lady. We are now in Scotland, where Rowan, who is the Laird, has a castle called Cloud. They are now married. They got married very quickly, and things are happening in the castle, which has started discussions about ghosts. We are here in chapter 16, Mountain Path. The album, bound in red satin, hand-painted, with aggressively purple wisteria, was in the middle drawer of Emilie's desk. Marylda stood with it in her hands for several minutes before she could make herself open it. Painting in oils on satin had been one of her mother's hobbies. It was almost an anticlimax to see her writing on the title page. To Emilie, from her devoted sister-in-law, to turn the stiff cardboard and discover a faded photograph of her father, a young man about to mount a bicycle, on the gravel sweep in front of the house on the Hudson, and under it in a more flowing hand, my brother Edward, April 1897. She went slowly out of the room, pausing to retch the door again, and then deliberately left it open. Why bother to lie any more, when the truth she must tell Rowan was so much worse than she had expected even in her greatest anxiety? How should she say it? I've lied to you. I am Marylda Blenkinsop, Emilie's niece. He and Georgina would think she had known all the time, that she had just been waiting to show them that the Cadrys couldn't get on without the Blenkinsop money, that they had been too proud to keep. Could she make them understand that she had more reason to fear Emilie even than they themselves? Would they pity her? Why should they? Their code was not pitiful of deceit. They believed in her heredity. How could they trust the niece of the woman who had betrayed Hector? But Emilie didn't betray Hector. She was startled by the sound of her voice, which cut across the thread of thought. She ran into one of the spare bedrooms and sat on a sheeted bed. No one would think of looking for her in there. Why did I say Emilie didn't betray Hector? How do I know that? Why am I suddenly certain that Emilie will never be able to rest until she can make someone understand what really happened? But I was going to do that. I told Duncan we must find out why Emilie came back. I never went away. She swung around as if someone else had said the words, and then realized it was only herself again speaking aloud. Or was it? Was she hearing Emilie for the first time? An echo of a familiar song was in the room. "Sing Me Home," said the long-lost lady. Nanny Lovell's tune. The tune that she must have taught Emilie too. "Please don't be afraid of me. I'm only Marylda, the daughter of your brother Edward." She sat very still, waiting for an answering voice. "I can't hear you," she said gently, "but we are going to help each other, until the two Miss Blenkinsops have no reason to be afraid in Cloud." She would confess to Rowan before the evening, but first she must have time to seek the right words. She would tell Agnes that she had a slight headache and had decided to go for a walk. It would be impossible to make trivial conversation at lunch. She heard the murmur of voices as she passed Georgina's sitting room. There was a mist of rain driving down from the moor, and the soft air was plaintive with curlew. Beyond the vivid moss and the white tufts of bog cotton on the low ground, the path began to mount between heather, grey with moisture. Familiar granite loomed through the mist, the place where Rowan had found white heather for her on a day when they had laughed together in the sunlight. She shivered and thrust her hands deeper into the pockets of her mackintosh. She crossed the stream that ran loud among boulders and began to climb the west face of Ben Dui. Beside the sheep track, the ground fell away in a steep slope of glassy turf. If the mist clears when I reach the crest, I shall see Cloud, small as a toy, in the distance. No one can be afraid of a toy. She thrust forward against the press of the hill, as though by physical effort she could dispel the broom that prevented her seeing clearly. If only I could tell Rowan why I'm sometimes afraid of Cloud. But Duncan is right, it would be cruel to remind him of terror he had been able to forget. If I could tell him, he might forgive me for having lied to him. Will he ever understand why I had to go on lying? The first lies were so easy, and then I went on, day after day, because I was afraid of losing him, because I have always taken the easier way. Will he ask me to leave him when he knows the truth? Did Emilie confess some lie to Hector and then ran away, because she could not bear to watch the disillusion in his eyes? But she didn't run away. You mustn't let yourself believe the stories that people have invented to conceal a truth they dare not understand. How can you expect Rowan to believe you if you won't believe Emilie? You came here because no one else would believe her. This is why she was so glad to welcome you, why she tried to make you share the happiness she found here, so that you wouldn't be afraid, so that you could love her enough to take her from the exile of a ghost. It was Emilie who told you what it was like to swim among water lilies under the moon. She wants you to put her gates back on their hinges, to bring living water to the fountain of her garden. A fall of scree rattled down the hill and nearly swept her from the track, which had narrowed to a rock shelf. She forced herself to sit down until her heart resumed its normal rhythm, to light a cigarette and smoke it slowly before going on. If I had fallen and broken my neck for no better reason than that a silly sheep somewhere above me in the mist lost its balance, where would I be now? In heaven. What do I know of heaven, save a vague belief that people who love each other are not separated by time or space? So my heaven would be in Cloud with Rowan. And if he would not accept me, it would be my hell. And heaven and hell no more than places of desire where that part of us must go, which does not recognize a new horizon. Is a ghost a soul who cannot share the freedom of its spirit? Each shall return to its own kind. Is Emilie's ghost seeking Hector's ghost? Then how can I, who am most human, make them aware of me? Man is composed of body, soul and spirit. Therefore I must learn how to know Emilie's soul with mine. How to know Emilie's soul with mine. For I suppose that not having a body is no more than being naked. Perhaps being afraid of ghosts is as ridiculous as being disconcerted by walking unexpectedly into a nudist colony and feeling disgracefully overdressed. So all I have to do is to learn to treat my body as I do my other clothes, as convenient but not essential. It will probably take time to learn the technique, but I'm not entirely unwise if I really try. Which is one of the reasons why all this is happening to you, she said briskly. Everything has been too easy for Miss Blenkinsop, so rich, so versed in the social graces. Now you must somehow prove to yourself that the aristocracy of money, which you inherited, and the aristocracy of lineage, which by marriage you have acquired, are pitiable unless you give them validity by an aristocracy of spirit. And that was the end of this chapter. The next chapter is entitled Miss Blenkinsop, chapter 17. What an intriguing novel.